Thank you, Neha, and welcome and good evening, everyone. I am Retractor Mitali Patra, International Service Director from Retract Club of Patal Ganga. I'm really very honored to introduce our key speaker, Dr. Mrs. Shweta Kanetkar. So, Dr. Shweta Kanetkar has started her practice after successful completion of medical graduation. With her unique way of working, caring nature, and good relation with patients, she is successfully practicing for last 10 to 12 years with a motto, getting cured with homeopathy. Speaking about her steps in career, she has completed BHMS from Bharatiya Vidyapit, Pune, MD. MD in Homeopathic Materia Medica from MUHS Nasik. ICR from ML, Dhavle Hospital, Palghar, also having ample guidance from well-known senior doctors and experience to assist renowned homeopaths in Mumbai. She is also specialized in treating piles, kidney stones, PCODs, and small children diseases. A successful practice of 10 to 12 years, having experience in counseling and giving dietary advices. In college days, she has worked as an NSS student and affinity towards social service. Like she likes to help needy in the society as she is working for Charitable Trust Hospital in Apta, where she has an opportunity to visit many Adivasis and Padas and treat them and also provide them medicines during the pandemic through RSS. She is a she is also practicing as a nutritionist on completion of specialization from ACSM, which is American College of Sports Medicine in clinical nutrition. I really welcome, with a good heart, welcome Dr. Shweta Kanetkar, and I give the stage to you and to start with the webinar. Thank you.
Am I audible, Mitali?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. Hello. Namaste. Good evening to one and all. Hope every one of you must have their cup of coffee and tea, because it's gonna be a long and mind-involving webinar rather. First of all, I would like to thank Rotract of Patal Ganga for giving me this opportunity to be their inaugural speaker on Colloquium 2.0. Second of all, I would like to thank all the collaborators who have collaborated with them. And third of all, I would like to say hereby that I'm declaring hereby that Colloquium 2.0 is inaugurated. I wish them a humongous success for all the activities they have planned in their future. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all. Mitali, we should directly jump to our topic today.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, guys. First of all, I would like to wish all of you on this International Youth Day 2021. Happy International Youth Day, guys. 12th August is celebrated as International Youth Day every year. This Youth Day was conceptualized by United Nations way back in 1999-2000. The first International Youth Day was celebrated in year 2000, and since that year, it has been celebrated every year with a unique theme, unique topic. This year is not an exception. Basically, we are celebrating the importance. Just a second. Basically, we are celebrating the importance of nation building, community health, economic growth, social issues, and most importantly, physical and mental health of youth, which is leading to upliftment of mankind. Now, the theme, as you can see on the slide, the theme of International Youth Day is transforming food system Youth innovation for human and planetary health. Basically, this is the structure by which I'm going to talk today. International Youth Day, understanding the terms and context, what are the issues, what needs to be done, and how youth can contribute. Okay, so let's begin. Now, first of all, we need to understand why this topic has given. What is the need of talking on this topic on International Youth Day? And more importantly, why UN has given this topic? Why it is that important? Why it is that critical? We need to understand the matter of fact. Now, for that, first of all, we need to understand how UN works. Now, UN, as we all know, it's an organization which was it's a global organization which was founded in year way back 1954 after World War II, with main aim or motto of international peace and security. But there are many organizations which work for humanity, betterment of Earth, and making Earth a more livable planet, for better Earth, and working towards mankind, everything. But why UN is special and different? Because overall, we have 195 countries, out of which 193 are the member states of United Nations and 2 are the observer states of the United Nations. So we understand the matter of fact that it is covering every geography, every topology, every boundary. Along with that, it is catering to all the stratas and their questions, their problems. They're trying to understand and trying to give solution to all. So if any problem is put forward or any theme is given by United Nations, it is very important. It is very important and critical, and it is specifically given on International Youth Day. So basically, what United Nations is trying to do, they are trying to build a sustainable future for our youth. They're trying to build a sustainable future for our youth. So what we mean by term sustainable? Sustainable means involving the use of natural products and energy in such a way that it does not harm the environment. The word meaning of sustainable is involving natural product and energy in such a way that it don't harm the environment. But sustainable does mean only has a one aspect or one facet. As you can see on slide, sustainable means sustainability emotionally, interpersonally, professionally, physically, financially, environmentally, and mentally. So it has very many dimensions, and together sustainability as a person as a whole. As we all can see, there are relevance of this topic on International Youth Day. The human population is growing. We are facing humongous problem related to finances, education, health, so on and so on. But the most critical problem we are facing today is the ongoing pandemic, which is the main factor. Try and understand what I'm saying. The pandemic has harshly affected all the minorities, developed countries, developing countries. Along with that, people with low socioeconomic status, various families. In simple word, every human being or every human staying on this planet has been affected because of this pandemic, which is going on so long. So we have to understand, along with doing that, it has harshly scarred our youth. So being at home, attending everything at home, attending their school, colleges, jobs, courses, there is no peer interaction, there is no socialization. So this makes us think that what kind of a future we are really walking into. What kind of a future is ahead in front of us? See, try and understand. Many of you can relate to me on this topic, that the youth is unable to visualize the future. Lack of job opportunities, lack of financial resources, lack of socialization, panic buying, all these things clubbing together had made our youth vulnerable. So basically, we should understand that the youth is vulnerable towards stress, towards shock, towards trauma. So what I'm trying to tell you is all these things are happening because we are unable to assess a healthy situation. We are unable to think what is healthy, what is unhealthy in every aspect. What do you mean by term vulnerable? Now, the term vulnerable means weak or easy to get harm emotionally and physically. So as we all know that our emotional and physical well-being is critically correlated to our basic needs. What are our basic needs? Food, shelter, and clothing. As we are trapped in this unfavorable, unfortunate, and harsh environment, it is obvious that it is going to affect our accessibility towards healthy food also. One of the facets of sustainable future is healthy food also. So when you are inaccessible to healthy food, healthy environment, healthy surrounding, healthy planet, as a youth, you are incapable to perform your fullest, your maximum towards your society. As we all know that we are part of society. Society is made up of us, and one of the integral part of the society is you all, a youth, because you are going to be tomorrow's future. So when youth is harshly scarred, youth is unable to perform maximum towards the society. As a result of which, this is hampering our future. So it's time to collect ourselves, gather ourselves, and sit and think that what is happening around us, why we are facing so many problems. And this might be the reason that this topic has given to the youth. Now let's understand what is youth, why this topic has given to youth. According to United Nations, youth people, or the people who fall in the category of youth, lies between the age group of 15 to 24. But in India, it is from 15 to 29 years. So if we think logically, this topic has given to youth because the youth has maximum productive years in their life as compared to middle-aged people or as compared to young people. Their exposure, their understanding, their accessibility to surroundings, their adaptation is maximum, their understanding. So when you're talking about youth, you're talking about your future also. If you're going to give same topic or making someone understand who is in their middle 40s or early 40s, they are going to have less productive years as compared to youth. Or if you present this topic in front of interacts or the school going girls or children, they are unable to understand the depth layers in this topic. So this topic was declared by United Nations on International Youth Day, so that the youth will understand its depth and start working accordingly. Basically, to have a sustainable future, we need to understand that one of the integral part of sustainable future is sustainable food system. But see, it is for understanding a sustainable food system, we need to understand that what is a food system, first of all. Then what is human health and what is planetary health? Basically, if food system is nothing but some aggregate of all the components starting from production of the food till its use by end consumers and all the links or loop in between, and its disposal, also its environmental effect. So some aggregate of that is nothing but our food system. Basically, as a definition, as you can see on slide, that food system encompasses the entire range of actors, their interlinked value-adding activities involved in production, aggregation, processing, distribution, and disposal of food, as well as its impact on environment. As we can see on the slide, there is a diagrammatic representation of food system. You can see everything starting from agricultural till food processing, from transport, marketing, end consumer, disposal, everything. But in layman's term, we have to understand that there are two facets of it. First facet is we need to understand the system in totality. We are not talking here regarding a food system in that particular area, particular state, particular gram panchayat, district, taluka. No. We are talking about a food system in totality that encompasses about total globe, total nation. First. And second, we are specifically talking about taking into consideration of all the aspects, social, environmental dimensions of sustainability, which are going to be affected because of this food system. Okay. Now, second terminology, human health. Everyone of us know what is the definition of health. WHO defines health as physical, social, mental well-being, and not merely absence of disease or infirmity. Same way, we have to define what is planet health. Planetary health the health of human civilization, as you can see it on slide, it's a health of human civilization and state of natural system on which it is dependent upon. So as we said, human body has its own health. Likewise, a planet also has its own health, its natural resources and various things that we are polluting, things we are using on a humongous scale, all the natural resources, we are exhausting them, we are utilizing, not utilizing them wisely. In totality, that talks about planet health. So what is the issue? So there are hundreds of issues we are facing. This pandemic has only aggravated those issues. ऐसा नहीं है कि we were not facing any issues before and this pandemic has only created a lot of issues. There were many issues, but this pandemic has aggravated them. Okay, so as you can see, 1.2 billion people are at risk of drought and extreme water scarcity. We are polluting things, we are polluting oceans, the snow on mountain is melting, our population is facing extreme health issues starting from obesity till malnutrition. We are not getting we can't take advantage of a healthy planet. We are suffering in each and every aspect. But what is the solution? What needs to be done? So as I said earlier, that United Nations took this topic. So they must have studied this topic. They took a summit, Food 2020 last year, and they have studied the past, they have seen the present, and they anticipated the future. After doing all these things, they have come to a 5 action track points. Basically, these are the small things from which we can start to change what is happening in the world around us. I would like you to know this point because they are going to make us understand this topic more clearly and in vast depth. Now, first point, ensuring access to safe and nutritious food. What UN is saying that every individual, it is individual's basic right to access safe and nutritious food. Second point, shifting to sustainable consumption pattern. See, try and understand. This is a very important point. Why they are saying that sustainable consumption pattern has to be there? Why I tell you? Because our world's population is divided into 2 stratas. On one end, we can see a population who has enormous accessibility to food, finances, resources, everything, technology, innovation, everything. As a result of which they are suffering because of lifestyle disorders, starting from obesity, mental disorders, depression, binge eating disorders, cardiovascular disorders, diabetes type 1, in kids also. Foreign countries are facing these kind of problems. In India, it is not that rampant. If you see, diabetes type 1 is humongous. The patients of diabetes type 1 are in large number in foreign cities like America, Europe. Okay, while on other end, we see a population where those people are dying out of hunger. They don't have food to eat. So this is such a vast gap. On one end, there is problem of plenty, while on other end, we are not getting enough food to eat. To that extent that on one end, kids are eating dairy milks, chocolates, pizzas, burgers, shakes every day, having tank juice every day, while on other end of the globe, kids are growing with eating mud cakes. Because in African countries, Saharan countries, Central Africa, there is scarcity of water. They don't have safe water to drink. They don't have food to eat. Forget good food, nutritious food. They don't have food to eat. They have to thrive a single meal. The river Nile is drying up. They have no water. And they are ample of diseases. Many various diseases are rampant over there, starting from protein energy malnutrition, kwashiorkor, marasmus, then you can see xerophthalmia, scurvy, vitamin A deficiency, so on, so on. So what they're trying to tell you is that our world is divided into 2 ends. We have to bridge this gap by adopting to a sustainable consumption patterns. Are you with me, guys? The third important point, boosting nature positive production at a sufficient scale. They're trying to tell us that the production has to be, first of all, nature positive, and second of all, it has to be sufficient. It has to be on a sufficient scale. By this point, they're trying to tell that we have to understand the change in climatic conditions. We have to we have to increase carbon tapping. We have to decrease the pollution, emissions, and we have to decrease the waste. Fourth important point is advancing equitable livelihood and value distribution. They're saying that the value distribution has to be equitable, that you have to create job, entrepreneurship, the risk has to be distributed equally, the social inclusion has to be there. You should include all the people in from all the stratas. This is what they're trying to tell. And the last and most important point, see, as we all know, any system can fall, any system can face vulnerability. As we have seen, our whole world system has crashed because of this ongoing pandemic. So like any system can crash. So we need to understand that we have to build resilience to the vulnerabilities, stress, and shock. How can we do it? By first of all, adapting, teaching people, and telling people about nutrition, and second, building our healthcare system. So basically, what are these? These are the basic points they have talked about. We should start our change from this point. But the core of this topic lies on their conclusion, their obvious conclusion out of which, on which the topic is lying. Let me tell you that they have told us four things. First of all, the ultimate objective is we have to end hunger. We have to end hunger. Imagine people are dying out of hunger. We have to end the hunger. Second, we have to eliminate the poverty and increase wealth. Thirdly, by doing that, we have to promote healthy diets for all. We have to educate people for healthy diet, and we should provide them a healthy diet. And most importantly of this all thing is, by doing all these three things, we are protecting life. We are protecting life. And this is the core of this topic. How we are going to do it? By building two things. One is capacity and second is capabilities. Once we try and engulf these two terminologies, we'll be able to build a sustainable system, sustainable food system, which is an integral part of sustainable future. Now, as you all can see on this slide, about innovation, transformation, and sustainability. Now, I would like to tell you what is a sustainable food system. Sustainable food system, that a system which is going to provide us food security. See, understand, it is our basic right. Half of the people are not getting food. So what we have to give is a food security. At prima facie, we have to give them food security. Later, nutrition, and in such a way that it will not have any negative impact on environment. And most importantly, we should secure the food and nutrition for future generations. That is the core of this. So this is called as sustainable food system. See, basically, as we all know, every system changes according to time. Every system changes. This system is not an exception. Food system is it is continuously changing, undergoing continuous change from Neanderthal till Stone Age till today's era. It is continuously changing. But if you say a term, if you see the term transformation, we need to understand that transformation is not one day phenomena, 1 week phenomena. It's a huge process. Here, I would like to give an example to you all. One morning you get up. Every one of you must be having small trees at your home. One morning you get up. You see on your lemon tree, you see a small egg. Then you wonder, what egg is this? Then on second day, you see a larva crawling. On third, fourth day, you see that half of your leaves of that lemon tree has been eaten by that larva, and it has grown such a big larva. And after 7, 8 days, you see that it has cocooned itself. And after a few days, you see that it has broke its own cocoon, and the butterfly is flying with 2 beautiful wings. So what I'm trying to tell you, that transformation is a process. So if you want to start that process, the first step of it is innovating towards a sustainable food system, and then only you'll be able to step the ladder, able to climb the ladder of transformation. Now, like guys, as this term transformation, as I have discussed this term transformation with you, I would like to tell you that this term is not a general term. This term has many layers to it. This has many aspects to it. It's not that only it is going to work in only one direction. It has many dimensions. As a youth, if you are going to work for a sustainable food system, you need to understand all the possible dimensions and aspects we are going to see, or facets of transforming a food system. Changing policies. Now, once you change the policies, you do it through innovations, your own ideas. When you see innovation, you have to see its pros, its cons, its negative sides, its positive sides. Along with that, we have to understand and learn its long-term and short-term effects. New technologies regarding agriculture, regarding food processing, food transport, energy consumption, utilization of natural resources, greenhouse emissions, food wastage, impact food disposal, impact on biodiversity, and the most important point is bringing the nutrition from the soil into the nutrition in food. I'm again repeating this. What is the core of all this is bringing the nutrition from the soil to the nutrition in the food. So this is what, so as you have seen, we started from what is United Nations, why this topic has given, what are the effects of pandemic, why we have to build a sustainable future, till transforming a food system. This is a theoretical aspect. Let's see, this is the theoretical aspect. I hope every one of you have understood the theoretical aspect of it. Now let's just start with the practical aspect. Basically, you all know that I'm here, not here to give you some nutritional tips. I'm here to give you some implementable ideas regarding how, as a single person, as a youth, can participate their share in transforming my food system. Try and understand, I'm saying my food system. So let's start with that. I would like to tell you, this is my take on how we can build a healthy, sustainable food system through innovation. Okay. So first point, as I've written there, you have to build a stronger local and circulatory food system. Local and circulatory food system. By doing this, all the minerals or the resources, all the nutrients remain there in the same loop. What we eat is again goes to our soil. So all the things remains in one loop. So what we are talking about? We are talking about circular agribusinesses. So what are we achieving by innovating circular agribusinesses? We are trying to create job. We are trying to create social inclusion. And most importantly, we are trying to decrease our dependency on our nation's dependency on imports. So there are many things which we have been doing so far for all this circular agribusinesses or this local thing. Like we are treating the wastewater, the water which has been waste after washing clothes or washing utensils. We are treating that water at many places for the finest mineral phosphate, and we are using that again for plants and various other purposes, or like organic farm waste to convert it into biogas energy, or food or organic waste can be composted with the help of fly larvae to convert it into animal food. So this is a basic aspect, but I would like you to relate to me, try and understand. I'm trying to put few thoughts in your mind as a youth. As you can see in the slide, I'm trying to give you a thought process. Every one of us know that various fat diets, various nutritional benefits about various millets are going on everywhere. Everyone is saying about those things. One of that is quinoa. Everyone know that if you go on YouTube or any social networking site or any place or Google it, you will see the 10 benefits of eating quinoa. But have we ever given it a thought that quinoa is not staple of India? First of all, I would like to say that quinoa is not staple of India. We don't eat quinoa over here. Many generations are not even, forget eating, not even seeing quinoa. But just because going behind some fat diets, we are trying to eat that. which is which is not used to our taste buds. But on the contrary, our country is full of millets. Our country is full of millets, starting from sorry, starting from various types of rice, starting from brown rice, unpolished rice, bamboo rice, till jwari, bajri, natsni, vari, razgira, you name it, we have it. We have ample of millets. Now, this slide can tell you the exact difference. What I'm trying to tell you is that if you compare the nutritive value of quinoa to our basic staple millet, we still found that our basic staple millets are better than what we are eating from quinoa, calorie wise. Now, why we eat quinoa? We eat quinoa for lesser calories, of course. But if you see amaranthus, a very own plant, a very own native of India, amaranthus, what we commonly name it as rasgira, and we eat it on our upwas or fasting days, has much more less calories and much more value, health benefits than eating quinoa. See, basically, try and understand. I'm not against quinoa. I'm just trying to put forward a point with help of this example that the business has to be local. The business should initiate and it should be circular. I'm trying to, what you can say, market local things over you with its obviously positive health benefits on other fancy things which are present in market. Then a very good example I want to tell you. This example is example of Moringa oleifera. You all must be knowing Moringa oleifera. The name is little difficult, but if I tell you the common name of it, you all will be able to understand. It's called as drumstick plant. Every one of us must have seen the drumstick, which is a normal vegetable in our Indian staple diet. It grows like a weed in India. This has humongous health benefits. As you all know, that vegetables don't provide us the amount of protein. They provide us fibers, mucilage, they provide us vitamins, minerals, but they don't provide us protein. But quinoa is that magic plant, moringa is that magic plant who provides us protein 2 times of yogurt. And we are not taking benefit of it as the rest of world is taking, because I would like to tell you, I would like to mention a fact that various organizations are planting quinoa trees in Africa, Saharan countries, Tanzania, and all those places. Why? Because it easily grows. It spreads like a weed and it has humongous health benefits, starting from its potassium, calcium, vitamin C, which they hardly get, and protein, which they don't get at all. As a result of which they'll end up into protein energy malnutrition. With this magic plant, you can eat everything. I mean, from the small leaves till full natural leaves, to that point that they develop, they eat quinoa leaves. They have developed quinoa teas. They sun dry the quinoa leaves and make powder of them. Along with that, they make use of those, the seeds to extract oil. It is that important and that magical. Okay, what we are doing, we are tell me you guys, when your mom takes a drumstick ka sabji, how many of you remove that drumstick from your sambar, your sabji? You're not eating it for 2 good reasons. I think palatability, we don't like it, or we feel it's not that nutritious. Why are we eating this sabji like this? Why are we eating it? But try and understand, the same sabji, the same plant is acting like a magic in other place where there is no food to eat. So this is another point which I wanted to emphasize, that we don't value what is there in our own soil, what comes in our own soil. The second point, my thought on the second point is, we should give farmer a voice and support their positive agricultural choices. World population is growing. And it is giving humongous stress on our food system, on every system we have. Let it be health system, let it be food system, every system. It is expected or anticipated that by 2050, world's 2/3 population is going to be in an urban sector. It's going to be in an urban sector. So what is left behind is the one third population. So is that one third population can be able to take all the load of that two-third population for its food demand, its food need? Of course not. Is farmer's son is willing to continue the farming practices, the agricultural practices? No, they are choosing to go to urban sector and having a corporate job. Why? Because in various nations and countries, specifically in India, farming is still looked down upon. So what we have to do? We have to give farmers a voice. We have to ask their opinions while making policies, while making different innovations and technologies. Because everyone has now started saying, "Kisan hai to hum hai." It is that important, guys. So farmer, we have to give utmost importance to farmers. By doing that, we have to empower the farmers. We have to empower the farmers, taking opinion of the farmers while policy making. See, tell me, many times we visit a mall, we see cleaned vegetables wrapped in cling film, and we get so attracted towards them that we tend to buy them. But in spite of doing that, if we go home and try to buy things from local farmers market, it is going to be more helpful. By doing that, we are creating jobs. By doing that, we are helping our own farmers. We are breaking the middleman chain, and we are paying directly to the farmers. We are uplifting their life. We are boosting them for doing more agricultural experimentations. This is very important. We should try and build more farmers market. By doing this, we are paying half of the cost to the farmer. Secondly, we are getting maximum health benefit, because when we buy a vegetable directly from the farmer, we buy a freshest vegetable. And by eating the fresh form of vegetable, of course, we are going to have the maximum health and nutritious benefit out of that. So in totality, we are benefiting ourselves. You all agree with me on that point? Now, I know there are another point. I know there are different we all have collaborated with other tracks also, but still I would like to put this point. I'm talking specifically in our Konkan region of Maharashtra, where during end of summer season and beginning of this rainy season, various weed vegetables grow in forest land. Various weed vegetables grow over there. We don't know what are exactly good vegetables and what are poisonous vegetables. But the nomadic tribes which live on in hilly regions, they know exactly what is good. As you can appreciate that on slide, there are various vegetables named agada, shevla, puluchi bhaji, bharang, kapal fodi, dinda bhaji, kartoli, takla. These are the local names, obviously. But I'm just telling you that many vegetables, weed vegetables grow in our forest region. These nomadic tribes go there, take that vegetable out and bring us to us in the market. How many of us really go there and buy those vegetables? Trust me, guys, those vegetables have the most nutritive values from the soil because they grow in forest and they have a particular period. So they're nutrient dense vegetable. How many of us really go and buy and eat those vegetables? We don't. If we try and doing that, if we try and give market to those nomadic tribes regarding this specific ranbhaja, as we call it in Marathi, this weed vegetable, this is going to change their lifestyle. This is going to cause upliftment to those nomadic tribes. This is a very important point, and you all should think in that aspect also. Now, the third most important thing, we have to identify the cost of the food, the true cost of the food. What is the true cost of the food? True cost of the food, that is the cost of the food which is true in its all sense, not in the sense of finances or money, but it is true in respect to its nutrition, its accessibility, its health benefits, everything. It is usually said that cheap food is expensive to health in terms of its nutritional benefits or hazards, what you can say. And secondly, in terms of loss of availability and resources to the planet. So here I would like to give you 2-3 examples. Like I'm trying to correlate that with a simple example, day in, day out examples. Try and understand those. If we compare a medium-sized pizza with a bowl full of nuts, having those walnuts, hazelnuts, almonds, etc., etc. It's going to be costlier. Of course, the bowl of nut is going to be costlier as compared to that pizza. So what is more beneficial over here? Of course, the bowl of nut, but unfortunately, we select on a pizza. The parallel example you are seeing on the slide. Two things. One is a aerated drink and second is a sugarcane juice. Tell me, youth, how many of you really go and grab a cool glass of sugarcane juice and rather than just going and grabbing a Coca-Cola? Hardly few. Why? This is definitely a point to sit and think. If we think by nutrition values, Coca-Cola or any aerated drink, I'm not specifying any drink, I'm saying generally, any aerated drink is full of preservatives, full of food colors, it has corn syrup added, it is aerated, and it is not healthy. And for making that one bottle of Coca-Cola, huge loss of natural resources has already been done. So what our choice should be? As compared to that, a sugarcane juice. Sugarcane juice, the sugarcane juice wala bhaiya is freshly taking out that sugarcane juice and we are having it freshly along with active nutrients and minerals. But why as a youth we select a aerated drink over sugarcane juice? Probably because lack of accessibility, probably because it doesn't suit our yo thing, so-called yo thing, or our mindsets. So we have to think about innovating all these things. We have to think about innovating the sugarcane juice and putting in forward in form of some fresh form so that we will give farmer its own right, its due right, and we will be eating a fresh food. Second example. See, many of us, we are bored because of our daily routine, college hai yaar, course hai yaar, we have to study so much. I know because many of you must have started their professional career. Many of you must have just ended their professional career, or some of you are just entering into it. बहुत load आता है because of all this pandemic thing going around. We feel exhausted. We feel, let's have a good movie. Let's see a good movie, a good web series. And what do we all do? We grab many possible things in market. We grab chips, we grab what you say, fries, pizzas, burgers, chocolates, pastries, everything. But as a youth, have we ever given it a thought that along with grabbing 8 unhealthy things on the table, we should grab, along with that, we should grab one healthy things like peanut, makhana, murmura, or something cooked at home, or some healthy fruit? Have we ever given it a thought? If not, then you should. If you're grabbing 8 unhealthy things which are processed, we should give it a thought of grabbing a natural thing which is available in market naturally. Another example to this. As a youth, as normal human beings, we are preferring canned juice. I don't know for what good reason, but we are preferring canned juices. Again, it's a very old thing in our house that when we are tired in this typical summer seasons, which are extreme in Indian region, we come home, we squeeze a lemon, but not that often. We try to go open the fridge and have a cold juice or have a cold bottle. On this total 1.5 year span, I have been continuously shouting. Everyone in India, every doctor is saying that you have to have vitamin C. Go grab, squeeze a lemon, have it. Why? If it is easily available at our home level, why aren't we going and grabbing it? Why the need to grab it when there is pandemic? We should sit and think about it. And if you ask me as a nutritionist, I'm going to tell you that rather than having juices, we should go and grab a fruit. Because when we are eating fruit, we are eating the nutrients in more potent form, the nutrients in non-oxidized form. We are having that fiber also, that mucilage also, and which is way more healthier than just having a juice. We can take it along with a huge glass of water also. So that is what I'm talking about, making choices, making a healthy mindset. Now, swiftly going towards the next slide, we talk about food wastages. It's a very important thing, food wastage. Now, as I have earlier discussed, that our population is suffering from suffering at two ends. On one end, we are having humongous amount of food, and to the extent that we are wasting it. And on other end, people are thriving to gather a single meal. Thriving to gather a single meal. Such a huge gap we are having, we are facing, our globe is facing. As you can appreciate that in the slide, that 61% of total wastage is done by consumer in North American region, while 87% of lost lost or wastage in production, storage, and transportation in Southeast Asian countries. Now, these two things are very explanatory, and let me tell you why. Uh, as we all know, North American countries are having all the possible resources, and they have a great infrastructure. In spite of fact that having a good infrastructure with respect to production, storage, and transfer, the wastage is occurring at the level of consumer to the extent of 61%. And on other end, Southeast Asian countries where the infrastructure is not that potent, the losses are at the rate or at the level of production, storage, and transport. So what we are doing? We are wasting the food. Now this becomes a statistical data. Let us correlate to our day in, day out activity. Okay. Now, all of you must have experienced this. Try and relate to this example. Like you cleared your exam, or you got your first job letter, or you scored amazingly well in particular topic, anything of that sort. What we call for? We call for a party. And this generation calls for, hey, let's go and have a pizza party. So let's take an example of pizza party. You are very excited that you are going to throw a pizza party. You call all your friends, and all of them are sitting, and you get your pizza. You're so hungry by seeing that tempting pizza. You start eating it, gulping it quickly, and along with that you are eating fries. Along with that you are having an aerated drink. By then you finish half of the pizza, you started feeling full. Why you started feeling full? Because the pizza is made up of refined flour. The crust is usually thick. It is hardly loaded with any vegetables, and trust me, I've counted. If you see, you order a non-veg pizza, you hardly see 7 to 8 chicken pieces in it. Hope you guys are relating to me. Are you with me, guys? Yeah. So you hardly can see 7 to 8 pieces. Are those 7 to 8 pieces going to suffice your protein need? Or बस बोलने के लिए एक chicken pizza मंगा दिया? And then by the time you grab the third piece and start eating it, you feel that I'm full here. And you just throw that pizza away. This is common. This happens. So what we are doing by doing this? First of all, we are wasting money. Second of all, we are wasting resources. We are wasting food, and the enormous amount of energy that has been involved from cultivation of that wheat, then taking that wheat out, storing it, converting it into the form of refined flour, that it goes into that pizza parlor, that they make it a pizza in an oven, and that pizza delivery boy gets that pizza to you in a cardboard box. Till that end, we are wasting a humongous energy in doing that thing. So what as a youth we have to do? We have to sit and think that what kind of innovation I can really do. I can start with food donation banks, wherein at various parties at our home, the food get wastage because many cases that the expected people suddenly drops, and we left it with more amount of food. In such condition, we can donate that food at that food donation banks, and those people can really go to people who are lying, who are sleeping on roads and now not having food to eat. So this definitely calls for some kind of a innovation. Another very relatable thing. See, when we go out, see, India is a tropical country. When we go out, we tend to sweat a lot. The humidity is high in Indian geography. So we feel very hot, and we just go and grab a chilled bottle of Bisleri and we drink that water. How many of us really carry their own water bottle from home rather than just increasing the plastic waste? Hardly few. What we are doing, we are wasting our money and we are increasing the plastic waste load on our planet. So innovation lies over here. As a youth, you can definitely think of opening a refilling distillery chambers wherein the needy people can go put a penny and can refill their bottles. If this is not innovation, then what is innovation? We should think in all this aspect to make our country, our nation a better place to live, a better place to sustain in totality. Now coming to the last point, as we have discussed what we have to do regarding farmers, what we have to do regarding wasting food. Now many things we can do for our own self also. Like the innovation or the change starts from I. So there are few things I have jotted down regarding our own selves. As we are losing grip on our age-old techniques, what our ancestral had eaten, in the way they have eaten, our generations have been eating that. And we are falling into trap of this so-called junk business or so-called junk civilization. We are missing. I'm not, see, try and understand. I'm not a person who is trying to tell you you have to stop junk food from tomorrow and you should start eating roti sabzi at home. I'm trying to tell you that you should know how to balance all those things, how to balance our junk food eating habits along with our ancestral food eating habits. I'm trying to tell you that. For that, I can tell you a very simple example. Every one of us like Frankie, but we don't like roti sabzi. Why? Because the form is different. Roti sabzi is in different form and Frankie is in different form. They give you in a rolled form and roti sabzi is different. So we prefer Frankie over roti sabzi. Another example. Many people they say that the pizza is unhealthy. But I would still like to make a point over here that pizza is not fried. It is baked. You can still make it healthy. We can still do innovations on that aspect, because basically it is made, the base is made up of refined flour. We as an innovating youth of our nation, we can still give it a thought by making it a multi-grain or multi-millet thin crust. Of course, there's going to be a taste shift, but we have to accept that also versus its health benefits. So we should give it a thought. We should make our crust more thinner, multi-milleted. Various millets are available. We can do permutations and combinations with that. We can make our own sauce at home, which is having less preservatives and which is more healthier and tastier. We can load our pizzas with lots of vegetables, good amount of meat, healthy vegetables, and of course, having said that, we can load our pizza with less amount of cheese. So we can still make our favorite dish with its unique twist and make it more healthier. So another example. I am not against anyone eating non-vegetarian food. I'm just trying to correlate the things. I'm just trying to give you a new thought process to you as a youth. So basically, when we are eating non-vegetarian food, as we can see in Western countries, they don't have Indian bread or roti system. They eat non-veg for their all three meals, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. They eat non-veg in every meal. But have we given it a thought that what kind of humongous energy is required to convert that little amount of meat, starting from an egg to a small chicklet to a full grown chicken? How much amount of energy has really gone waste into that? How much amount of energy has really put in into to convert that egg into a full grown chicken? If we give it a thought, then we'll definitely think eating all the non-vegetarian food daily. I'm not saying that you should not have non-vegetarian food. I'm just trying to tell you that if we see its environmental, when we compare it with the environmental losses, we can still give it a thought of adding healthy vegetables, roughage, and other mock meats to our palate along with eating that non-veg food. As you can see on slide, how much feed is gone, how much water is gone to get a 1/4 pound of hamburger. How much fossil fuel energy has gone? Many points. While on the other side, it is the many studies have shown us that eating red meat continuously can have horrible health hazards, and it has been linked to conditions like cancer, because this meat is capable of producing oxidative stress in the body. Trying to understand, guys, oxidative stress in the body. If we don't eat it with healthy antioxidants, it is going to make our system go haywire. It is going to make us land into conditions such as cancer. So we should eat it in a particular format. Portioning our eating is a very important factor when it comes to changing yourself. Now the another point, we should as Indian, we all know that we should sit on the ground with folded legs, and it's the ideal position for all of us to eat. Along with that, all our age old techniques that we should cook into the brass pots which are lined with tin, so that all the vegetable is equally cooked. It cooks in no time and it is more healthy and nutritious. Trust me, guys, that if we drink water from a copper pot, it is going to increase our immunity. Why we just want that decorative plastic bottles to drink our daily water? We can still connect that copper pot to our aqua guards and store that water in that copper pot. Small things are really going to help us to change our own mindsets. Now, simple things like, as we can change the form of our base bread for pizza, we can similarly change the form of tortilla breads which are common in Mexican region. The burritos are quite common in Mexican region. That's the staple food. So we can change, rather than just having the refined flour, we can change its format and convert it into a healthier form. We can try and eat gadget free. We can try and eat gadget free. See, I know everyone is busy. Everyone's day is routine. We have our own routines. We have our own meetings, and everyone is busy. But we should try and sit at least. We should try and sit and have one meal at least together with our family, to increase our bonding, our relationship with our family members. Because that, for that we are doing everything. We are there because our family is there. So we are trying to, I'm trying to emphasize on that bond. We should try and understand that we should sit with our families gadget free and eat our food. Should have small discussions that is that is going to help us in bonding with each other. So these are various points. We can talk about various points. These all points are my take on some practical ideas, or my ideas, practical ideas about changing our own self. So now, just to sum up the total topic, I would like to say we started the whole discussion with understanding United Nations, understanding International Youth Day, then going to sustainable future and how pandemic has scarred it. And then we went to one part of that sustainable future, that is sustainable food system. Then we learned what is innovation, and then we learned what is transformation. And then we said that once we know how to form sustainable food system, we will try and get into the ladder of transforming our food system. So as in India, everyone says that it's a common notion in India. If you educate a single woman, she will in a family. If you educate a single woman, she's going to educate a whole family. On that notion, I would like to add my take, that if today I'll be able to inspire a single youth from the family, the whole family's eating pattern, habits, and lifestyle is going to change, because the change starts from I. If one youth has changed, he or she is going to change his or her family. The family is going to change the society, and the society together is going to change our nation. And together we're going to build a sustainable food system, guys. So the change starts from us, our mind, our soul. Many a times nutrition, many patient comes to me for nutrition. I always tell them, nutrition lie in your mind. It lie in changing your mindset first. You should try and grasp and grab all the changes. You should try and understand every facet. You have to change your mindset. Nutrition lie in your mind. So next time, I'm specifically emphasizing in this on this slide that Why it is all related to food? Because when we say food, we relate our food to everything. We relate our food to our happiness. We relate our food to our sorrows. When we are sad, we go and grab a big chocolate bar and we start eating it. We grab a big cupcake and we start eating it. We relate food to our festivals. India is full of festivals. We relate every festival with our food. We relate food to our culture. We relate everything with respect to our food. So food is an integral part of our system. Food is an integral part of me as I. So next time when you will grab your plate, just have a look at it. Just thank God for having a plate full of food, because somewhere on other side of a globe, a small child is striving to get a single meal in a day. See that food with eye, and see that how many different colors are there in my food. Just thank God, smell that food and grab your first bite and give it a thought that, am I eating correctly? Am I giving justice to the food and the whole food system? Am I making it sustainable? Just give it a thought. Thank you. Mitali, I'm done over here with respect to presentation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for your session. We will be proceeding for Q&A session. So I have some questions ready with me. Also, I request the audience, if they can put it in the chat box. So the first question, which is, can we say that equitable and sustainable food distribution and nutrition goes hand in hand? And what is the importance of balance among the both?
Can you just repeat that question, Rohan?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can we say that equitable and sustainable food distribution and nutrition goes hand in hand? And
of course.
What is the importance of balance among the both?
Okay. Of course, it go hand in hand. The answer to your first question is it go hand in hand. And the second question is that, do we need to have a balance between them? So first of all, I want to tell you that when we try to balance something, when there is imbalance, the things are critically imbalanced. We try and find the balance in that situation. These things are balanced. I'll give you a practical example. If we see sugarcane plant need lot of water. It really need lot of water, as a result of which it drains the natural water which is present in the soil. But it is the farmers are really facing problem with that respect. But the net result of that sugarcane plant, that is a sugar, we are eating a lot more sugar than we really need, our body really need. So there is an imbalance between the crop and what are we eating. So on that junction, yes, we have to hit the balance. How we can hit the balance? Now what we need is we need sweet taste to our taste buds. We can still replace that sugar with its prior forms like jaggery, that kakvi, what we say it in Marathi, or we can still have it in another form like maple syrups, honey, fruit which are loaded with fructose. We can still satisfy our palate rather than just going and having the refined sugar. So we have to go and hit the balance on that front. Or another example, see, if you are eating chicken or if you are eating some kind of a non-veg food, then what you are doing, you are eating humongous amount of non-veg food, and for that food to grow, we are cutting forest and we are making a land for that sheep and goats and chickens, a grassland. We are converting them into grassland. So there is an imbalance. You should try to balance our taste buds, our appetite, our consumption pattern in such a sustainable form or pattern that it will suffice the need of the environment also and need of our own body also. So this is my take on it.
Okay, ma'am. So the next question is, like, the question is like from the aspect of developing countries. So what would you like to comment upon, like the food distribution inequality among the between developing countries and the developed countries, where the developing countries are there's a question of one meal's time, and where the developed countries are wasting the full like wasting their food in tons.
See, Rohan, Basically, as a homeopath, as a nutritionist, I've already talked about my take on it. I have already told you that we are already causing humongous waste. So we should think before gulping a bite that am I wasting something in a very wrong way? See, because I like to add one point over here, because क्या होता है बहुत बार that you are feeling unwell. You are feeling unwell, you are having cough, you are having fever, you are having some kind of a chest pain. People run to doctor. Because right now the people are very panic. People are having gas complaint, they can come, they can run to doctor because of this pandemic condition. But half of the population in our country really don't understand that their nutrition can also be diseased. They feel that I'm eating everything correctly. So what I'm trying to tell you is that our nutrition needs lot of correction. And once we try and achieve those corrections, and those corrections, we can't do those corrections just by Googling few sites. There are various fat diets which are going around, like you say, Atkins diet, GM diet, so also. But I'm not saying the diet are bad, but they have been tried on a particular group under medical supervision. As a homeopath, I always tell that every patient is an individual first, and the medicine is going to be individualistic. Likewise, today I would like to put that point forward that every nutritional client is individualistic and diet given to every person is individualistic. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you should understand our own body's need and try to waste as less as you can. We should definitely try and change our mindsets regarding this.
Ma'am, one last question.
Yeah.
So the question is what would you like to give, what thoughts would you like to give the youths to think upon after this webinar? So
you tell me. Now I've talked so long, you tell me as a youth what you have grabbed. A single thought, a single point, you tell me now. Ron, you tell me what you have, digested from my 1 hour's session. You tell me. What
sure,
more I
ma'am.
can tell you? On the cost of repetition, Rohan, I would like to add one thing. As I have promised you that I'll definitely try and make this session in such a way that every young person who is attending this session while closing the screen will go with a thought, will go with a mindset, a small, change in their adaptation to surroundings. And that is what I'm expecting from you all. Okay. So
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I hope I have given you enough thoughts. Now it's your turn to do innovations and build a sustainable food system.
yes, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. Okay. So moving towards vote of thanks. Now I would like to invite Rotractor Riddhi Lohani, Vice President and World Rotrac Week Chairperson of Rotrac Club of Patalganga, to propose her vote of thanks.
Hello, am I audible, Rohan?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
Riddhi, you're audible.
Thank you, Rohan. First of all, I would like to say, Doctor, the session was very, very informative and helpful. I, along with all the members of my club, thank you from bottom of our heart for taking out your precious time and giving us such an insightful session. It was our pleasure to have you as the speaker for our inaugural webinar. So I would also like to thank all the Rotrac clubs that agreed to collaborate with us. Rotrac Club of Coimbatore Main, Rotrac Club of Central Campus, Rotrac Club of Youngistan, Rotrac Club of Bhopal Marvels, Rotrac Club of Khopoli, Rotrac Club of Meraki, Rotrac Club of Delhi Capital, Rotrac Club of Lala Lajpat Rai College, Rotrac Club of Itahari, Rotrac Club of Gwalior Rise, Rotrac Club of Pimpri, Rotrac Club of Panvel Industrial Town, Rotrac Club of Churchgate, Rotrac Club of Kolkata Krishki, Rotrac Club of Pune South, Rotrac Club of Roja Central, and Rotrac Club of Juarez Frontera, Mexico. Thank you so much for collaborating with us. Also, we have shared the contact details of the speaker in the chat box. So whoever wishes to consult the doctor, you can connect her online as well. So if anyone is interested, you can either text her or email her at the given email address in the chat box. And lastly, I would like to thank all the members that attended this session. I hope you gained a lot of knowledge that will help you improve your lifestyle. So yeah, thank you everyone. Stay safe, be happy, and keep protracting. Thank you, doctor, once again.
Thank you, Riddhi. Thank you. It was a great pleasure to have you all. And I would like to thank Protract of Patalganga for having me as an inaugural speaker. And it was great pleasure having you all. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, have healthy food. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.